you want to get to my beef with Flyers Twitter of the week?
I guess.
Well, because you haven't heard this yet. Only Bundy and I have discussed this. You haven't heard it yet, so we're going.
We're going to have to do like an intro for this at some point.
Some point. It's only the second week.
Anthony Sanfilippo's Twitter beef of the week.
It's not my personal beef. It's my beef with Flyers Twitter.
Cow.
Yeah, it's my beef with Flyers Twitter.
Okay.
Everybody's out there. Not everybody, but a lot of people are out there. Mm-hmm. They want to fire Rick Tocket. 21 games into his tenure as the coach of the Flyers, and they want to fire Rick Tocket. What the hell is wrong with people? Like, why would you want to...
With a winning record.
He's got a winning record in his first season, implementing a new system with a team that lacks high-end skill, and he's doing pretty well. Yes, the offense is struggling. I get it. But you got to give them the runway, right? I mean, you can't – look, who knows? The guy might end up not being a good coach in 3 years, right? Whatever. But it's 21 games into his tenure, and people are, like, calling for his head. And they're serious about it. Like, this is it'd be different if it was just like, oh, yeah, he's terrible. Fire the coach, ha, ha, ha. Goofing around about it. There are people who are seriously saying, fire the coach.
Deadly serious, which is just crazy to me. Flyers Twitter is insane. It is, and then it's just like then you see some of the people who tweet it, and you're like, how'd that tweet get 500 likes?
Yeah.
It's insane.
Well, you guys are beside yourselves. I got to tell you, I don't think that those people are totally wrong. If I see Nikita Grabenkin sit for 3 more games in a row, I'm renaming the coach Rick Toccarella. Try me.
You're nuts.
Get Grabenkin out of the press box. I'm just kidding.
You're nuts.
I'm just kidding. But Toccarella, that's going to be his name.
Toccarella.
Every time Grabenkin ends up in the press box.
Yeah.
Toccarella.
Yeah.
He's got to earn his name back. He's getting close.
Yeah. I mean,
you can't. I mean, you certainly can. You know what the thing I think people get the most upset about? Because people get upset about everything. I think people are mostly upset with the fact this team isn't a lot of fun to watch. Part of that is because they don't put a lot of pucks on net. And also, it's not an aesthetically pleasing game. Now, you could make the argument, well, they're a defensively oriented team. They're a much more sound team. They're a risk-averse team. There are other teams like, Anaheim's of the world that are also in the midst of a rebuild, and they're playing a little bit more wide open. They're having a little bit more fun out there, and so you look comparatively and you go, I think you could almost make a similar case in some ways to, like, the football team. The football team doesn't play the most aesthetically pleasing, but they get wins, and, are you trying to win pretty or are you just trying to win? And sometimes you just want to win.
Right. I just think it's...
So the football team is also incredibly talented and has a total buffoon.
Yeah, like it's asinine. It'd be different. It'd be different if he came in here, and this team was an abject disaster, and losing, 4 out of every 5 games, just being terrible. The attitude was bad. They weren't buying in right away. Like then, okay, fine. You could say, holy hell, we made a mistake. Get rid of this guy. But that's not the case. It's far from it. Like they made a 5-year commitment to him. You got to give him the runway.
Yeah, no matter what you think of Rick Tocket right now, you've got to have to bear with him because he's just started. He's 21 games into a 5-year contract.
Yeah.
He's done a good job for certain things, and he's working with what he has. He's trying to put lines together that make sense on a nightly basis, and that's not necessarily his fault. I don't know if he's got enough players to plug into the spots that he's looking to do, and that's up to the GM to find out and round out the roster for the coach.
Yeah, and like I said, I mean, who knows? Guys, he may not ultimately may not be the right coach. We don't know, right? Ultimately, and I want to say that out loud, he may not be. But you cannot, in any way, shape, or form, definitively say today, on November the 25th, 2025, you cannot definitively say he's not the right coach. You cannot. That's it. It's plain and simple. Okay? Good? You good with that?
Do you want me to play devil's advocate?
No, I want Russ's real opinion. I want Russ to respond.
My
to
real
that.
opinion will set you off.
Russ reacts.
Yeah,
I want Russ reacts.
We don't need to have my full opinion. My full opinion will get you worked up, and then I'll get a call from somebody complaining that I'm too negative again. But I'll just say this: where you are currently at, and like the results that you're getting, are really not that different from John Tortorella coaching. I don't mean like the day in and day out, and I don't mean the interactions with players. I mean ultimately. you are pushing certain buttons to get a team to around 500. And this is typically where, when I skew negative because I don't see the vision, I say that's hockey purgatory. This is the first year in a long time that I've said, all right, I kind of get it. Like, Mishkov, you got lucky. Cool. Like, that would be, Bundy and I always talk about, like, number 1 or number 2 pick in the draft. That's the elite talent you have to build around. That's what the cup contender ultimately gets, built around. And I think Martone is a guy that probably could have been like a top 4, top 5 guy. He fell to them. I think he's going to ultimately be one of the best players in that draft. And so I'm fine with saying, two of the 3 years, you ended up with a stud in the first round. I also think Nesbitt's going to be good. I don't know if I'm ready to put like the stud stamp on him yet. And I have no idea about Luchanko, and I'm pretty negative on that entirely, so I'll keep that out of this. But like, I think you can look at it and say they've gotten some good talent there. They have, for the rebuild. And so this year I was like, all right, fine. If they want to push it forward, push it forward. But like, let's not get it twisted. It theoretically is year 3 of the rebuild. If this team had been bad, or if they had hired a coach that didn't have pedigree or didn't have experience, and it had been a bad team this year, and they had been back in the lottery again this upcoming year, I don't think the fans actually would have been upset. I think they might have been able to get one more year of that before open revolt. I don't think that it would have, killed it. But there is somebody who said in the comments that, like, there might be a sentiment out there that maybe this front office has kind of used up the emotional equity or the equity that they've built up with the fan base. Like, at some point you do kind of have to push it forward because they are where they are. It was this one. Trading is life, 420. It says, Flyers managed completely out of runway when fans look around the league at other rebuilds.
Really?
I do think that.
What other rebuilds in the last 3 years? 3 years, because that's all that this management team has been in place. That's 3 years long. That's in year 3 of the rebuild. Is so far and away better than what the Flyers are doing that they are. Oh my God! Yeah, that's the way to do it.
Well, Chicago is probably one of the teams. They've got a lot of good young players.
Yeah,
and they've kind of slow walked that. They've had to.
But that goes back a little bit further than 3 years.
A little bit, but really, I look at it from the start of Bedard.
Right.
Bedard,
so that's
the Bedard-Mishkov draft is really where you look at.
Anaheim is an interesting one, too, how they've kind of rebuilt a little bit, too. They're 14-7-1, I think, now.
Yeah, off to a good start. But if you watch the way Anaheim plays, does Anaheim look like a team that's going to win in the spring?
But I'm not talking about teams that are going to win in the spring. I'm talking about teams that have rebuilt and look good right now in terms of where they are.
They're also longer than 3 years,
right?
Too.
And there's teams that are falling, too, right now, like Edmonton and Toronto.
Yeah.
Right, where they're going to have to start a rebuild, too, so we'll keep an eye on those teams.
Vancouver
wheels are coming right off.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. How's
San Jose is one that people like to point to.
Well, Celebrini's been off to a great start.
Yeah. Utah is another team that's kind of.
But again, long. That's a long time for them, right?
They're starting to finally get players now that are adding up to NHL.
But see, that is what you and I were agreeing about the other night, though, is that, for better or worse, instead of going the long rebuild, and you talk about this a lot, the idea of like this city couldn't have done a 10-year rebuild. I agree. But while it doesn't guarantee you that you're going to win a cup, fans to some extent are kind of willing to take a little bit of the longer pain if it does ultimately net you a bunch of those high-end guys, and you have a situation like Colorado did or one like Florida did, and then they added free agents, and that took them to the next level. I think you can sort of see why some of those other fan bases, like, did they have really bad stretches? They did. But they're in the same place the Flyers are, and the Flyers, instead of kind of bottoming it out, they decided to do the patchwork thing for a lot of years instead of taking it to ground zero. And, like, there is a chance, I'm not saying that it's there right now, there is a chance that, like, this time next year, we stack up the Flyers roster, San Jose, Chicago, Anaheim, and we say, of those 4, the Flyers have the lowest ceiling of those teams. It's possible that this time next year we do. And if we do, then you go, all right, maybe it wasn't the right call to do the Chuck Fletcher patchwork moves. Maybe it wasn't the right call to keep John Tortorella in place and play to the middle, to play into that hockey purgatory. We'll see. It's a longer vision. Like, you do have to zoom out at some point. Yeah. But I think that's why I think that's why there's a lot of frustration with the fan base. But there's nothing you can do.
See, that's the thing. Fans want them to win now, but don't want them to win now. Like, you can't have both sides of it. They're like, well, these other teams are doing great. Why aren't we doing great? Mm-hmm. But then it's like, well, you should lose so that you can go and get those bad players.
I mean, won't the playoffs be enough for the fans this year? Like that's what I would think, right?
I think if you make the playoffs and it's like very soundly, I think you're probably okay. The thing that I think has taken a lot of the sting out of it and probably has cooled the fan base down a bit is that Gavin McKenna doesn't look like Connor McDavid.
No,
because
he doesn't.
if he did, you would, I think, have more open rebellion among the fans of like, why are you trying to make the playoffs now when there's that guy? I know you always say the 20% thing, which is true.
Yeah.
But I think that the fact that there doesn't look to be a guy right now who like would be a day one put in like absolute star player, I think that probably helps them a little bit if the goal really is to make the playoffs, which I think it is.
Okay.
Oddly enough, this year I think we are more aligned than we typically are.
Yeah.
I think.
I agree with you. I agree.
But I get why people would be frustrated when you look around the league and you go, because maybe I think when Martone is here, I think if Porter Martone were playing right now for this team and we're finding the goal not quite as much as like Gauthier is, but like if Martone were here and looked really damn good with Mishkov, and if Mishkov hadn't like looked the way that he did to start the year, I think the fan base would probably be a lot cooled off. If Jet Luchanko were playing on the team right now as like the 3C and making things happen, the fan base would probably be cooled off. I think it's just a bunch of those things all added together is what kind of sets them off. And there's nothing you can do. We can't do anything about it. We can just assess the team that's on the ice.
It's impatience. It's what it is it's impatience.